Hey there, second graders. Today we are going to do our last lesson on fluency for this week. And remember, our reading focus today is I can read words correctly and with fluency to support understanding. Today we are working on one of my all time favorite skills that we really get to start working on in second grade. And it is this part of fluency is reading with expression. And I really like the strategy that we are going to be working on because it's making your voice match the feeling in the words today. So for your work today, make sure you're picking a book that you really love to read that's maybe a little easy for you to do too, because that's really important when you're practicing fluency to pick a book that's a little easy for you. But make sure you pick a book that you really enjoy and you really know how the characters feel so you can read it with feeling. Today we are going to continue to work on fluency and we are going to continue to work on expression while we read. So remembering there's 4 parts to fluency. The first is accuracy, reading the words correctly. The next one is rate. I read not too fast like I'm doing right here and not too slow. And the next one is expression, which we're working on again today. I read with feeling and I didn't sound like a robot. And our last one is punctuation. I follow most or all of the punctuation marks as I read the text. And we started talking about that a little bit yesterday with not reading like a robot. So our reading focus for today is I can read with accuracy and fluency to support understanding of the text. And so our strategy that we're working today is make your voice match the feeling. So the idea is for you to think about how the character feels. Think about how you sound when you feel like that. Read the dialogue to match the character's feelings. So you can see in this really fantastic picture that I drew right here, or is not my strong suit. You can see in this fantastic picture, I said, if you read something that's sad or the characters are sad, even though you're happy, you want to make your voice sound sad. And if you read something that's excited, then you want to make your voice sound excited like that. So one of the really great ways to practice this strategy is making sure that you're choosing a book that has got some great emotion that you can really think about, or a character where you really thought about what their voice sounds like in order to read out loud. So that's your job, going to be your job today. Today, I'm going to be reading this book called Stanley and Rhoda, and I have picked this book because it was a book I read when my kids are little, and I really like the characters of Stanley and Rhoda a lot. There's a lot of people in this book who have a lot of feelings. Stanley is the older brother, and he kind of is in charge of a lot of things and kind of knows what's going on before a lot of people, even adults, know. And Rhoda is his younger sister who has got a lot of strong feelings, which I really enjoy. So there's 3 short stories in here, and we're going to read them. And as I read them, I really want you to think about how I make my voice match the feeling in the story. Because that's going to be your job today too. So Stanley and Rhoda. The first chapter is called Bunny Berries. The next one is Don't Touch It, Don't Look at It. And the last one is Henry. So Bunny Berries. Rhoda, please clean up your room now, said Rhoda's mother. Too tired, Rhoda answered. Stanley, said their mother, see that Rhoda cleans up her room. Shake a leg, Rhoda, said Stanley. So shake a leg means like you gotta hurry up. But Stanley, said Rhoda, where shall I begin? Why don't you start by taking the beads out of your clay, suggested Stanley. They're berries, not beads, said Rhoda. Whatever they are, said Stanley. Rhoda, your clothes are all on the bed again. I'll put my berries in my berry bottle, said Rhoda. So I kind of am reading her as like, oop, she's just playing around. Well, Stanley is like taking charge of everything. I'll put my berries in my berry bottle, said Rhoda. Help me make the bed, Rhoda, said Stanley. Call them bunny berries, said Rhoda, because I feed them to my bunny. So she's not paying a lot of attention to the task on hand. Oh, so she dumped them all out. Well, there they go, said Stanley. Hand me that pillow, please, Rhoda. I'll pick up the berries first, said Rhoda.
Your clay is stacked, said Stanley. Your bed is made and your clothes are folded, which is something he did. And my berries are back in the jar, said Rhoda. Open the drawer for me, please, Rhoda. She dumped it out again. Are you ready, Rhoda? Called their mother. Yes, answered Rhoda. Stanley helped. So did Stanley help? No, Stanley did it all. It was nothing, said Stanley. It's beautiful, cried their mother. Hug and kiss, please, said Rhoda. Hug and a kiss and a cookie for both of you, said their mother. Come and have your cookie, Stanley, called Rhoda. Okay, said Stanley. And he just can't help it. Dump it out and do what his sister did. The next one is, don't touch it, don't look at it. We use this line in our house a lot still. What should it be? Stanley advised. What be? Asked Rhoda. Near your right foot, said Stanley. Which is my right? Asked Rhoda. The one with the freckle, said Stanley. Oop, somebody got stung. He got me! Rhoda screamed. Wait a minute, said Stanley. So she dumped the thing of rocks on him. It hurts, Rhoda screamed. It's just a bee bite, said Stanley. It hurts, Rhoda cried. Let me see it, said Stanley. No, said Rhoda. I just want to look, said Stanley. Don't touch it, don't look at it, said Rhoda. Let's go home then, Stanley suggested. I can't walk, said Rhoda. Stanley took the rest of the rocks out of the wagon and put Rhoda in. It hurts, Rhoda yelled. I know it, said Stanley. I'll put some nice cool mud on it. Stanley fetched some mud. Dirty, said Rhoda. Just try it, said Stanley. Don't touch it, don't look at it, said Rhoda. When we get home, said Stanley, Daddy will fix it. What will Daddy do? Asked Rhoda. Take the bee sting out of your foot, Stanley answered. How? Rhoda asked. Probably he'll use a needle, said Stanley. Or maybe tweezers, Stanley went on. Then again, he might soak your foot in boiling butter. On the other hand, he may just decide to take you up to Dr. Zuckerman and let him work on it with his new splinter drill. Is he telling the truth? No. It's better now, Stanley, said Rhoda. I'm glad, said Stanley. He's kind of smiling because he knows he tricked his sister a little. It will be perfect if you kiss it, said Rhoda. Nothing easier, said Stanley. The last chapter is Henry. Stanley, said Stanley's mother, this is Henry. He'll stay with you until I get back from the store. No, said Rhoda. That's a little girl, isn't it? Asked Henry. No, shouted Rhoda. So you get the sense right away that maybe Henry is not babysat a whole lot. Let's play ball, said Henry. I don't like you, Henry, said Rhoda. Give her a muffin, Henry, suggested Stanley. It will cheer her up. Okay, said Henry. With jam or she won't eat it, said Stanley. Oh, yes, said Henry. More, said Rhoda. Say please, Rhoda, said Stanley. Try ice cream, Henry. Oh, yes, said Henry. More, said Rhoda. Cake, Stanley suggested. Of course, said Henry. So Henry's just agreeing to everything. She needs a bath now, Henry, Stanley said. Oh, yes, said Henry. No bath, shouted Rhoda. Yes, said Stanley. Here we go, said Henry. Not that way, Henry, said Stanley. What way? Asked Henry. Don't you take your clothes off when you get into a tub? Asked Stanley. No, Henry shouted. Never. I always take baths in my clothes, even in my football uniform, always. Henry, I love you so much, said Rhoda. Don't cry, Henry, said Stanley. I'm home, called their mother. So kind of a big disaster. Don't look, said Henry. Don't be home yet, said Rhoda. Is everyone all right? Asked their mother. Couldn't be better, said Stanley. So I've worked on that one for a while, and what I really like is the different voices that you can make and kind of a little bit of silliness in the story. So when you're making your voice match the feeling, it's really great to pick some books that you know really well, or a book that's a little easier for you to read in order to make your voice match the feeling and when you're practicing expression and fluency. Have a great day, third graders.